A say ah ah ah, B say b b b, C say k k k. That's how I learned the alphabet. Didn't stop me from being a writer.
And did you have any enduring friendships from your time in that school?
Every one of them died. We moved out of Glen Cove in '66 to Great Neck to go to what was supposedly a great school system. The sickest, most mentally ill school system in the country, but a rich school system. But my mother finally said, we're going to get the boys into a great school. So we moved to Great Neck, closer to the city. And I lost touch with all my friends in Glen Cove until I found out 35 years later when I went back, which is the prologue to the book, and found everybody was dead. Everybody, except one girl.
How did the black kids relate to you being Jewish?
They didn't know what Jewish was, and for that matter, I didn't know that I was Jewish. All they knew was white, but I was considered one of them, and as they would say to me, Jock. They called me Jock because they couldn't pronounce Josh. So they said, Jock, you really one of us, Jock. You a white nigga, right? You a light-skinned nigga. And they would introduce me to their parents as, he a light-skinned nigga. He one of us. And they'd say, he don't look like no nigga to me. I said, no, he a nigga. He a nigga too. He one of us. And I thought I'd be moving down. I felt terrible because I wanted to move down there and live with my friends instead of the white Catholic kids in my neighborhood who hated me for going to that school and were appalled that I went there anyway. And so I thought I was just a light-skinned nigger for 4 years then, I suppose. But when I came home, it was a white household. I had a few white friends too, but mostly I took a lot of hell. Not for the Jewish thing it was a very small deal. I mean, it was the Catholic kids and their parents called me Bagel. I didn't understand why, it was a bagel. But that was not a big, I might have had a few fights about that, but it was not even it was not a defining issue of anything. It was white, black.
Tell me about the process of writing and publishing this book.
I started it in 12th grade in high school when I was 18. It became one of the first stories I ever sold as a short story. Black Cracker. They changed the title to Growing Up Black. It ran in Penthouse in 1978. First it got accepted by Esquire, and Gordon Lish, at which the agent was amazed. I'm like 22 years old, and I had my first story being sent out. They wanted it, but they wanted to edit it. So it was a 42-page story, and he cut it down to 7 pages. He said, it's better this way, it's tighter. So that didn't work out. And then Penthouse...
Because of you refused? Is that what happened?
I refused, and then I refused.
Okay.
It was destroyed.
And then how long was it in Penthouse?
A few years later, it came out in Penthouse as a long story, but they even rewrote it a little bit. Hey, Wyatt.
Hey.
This is my main man in L.A., Wyatt Doyle. We've been partners for a year. I've been talking to him or emailing with him 5-10 times a day for a year. I just met him 2 days ago in person for the first time.
Partners in life and love.
Amazing. In life.
Tremendous affection.
In business.
Partners
So
in life.
what brings you guys together? Tell me about your connection.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Just fate. Just fate. Wyatt has got an amazing thing going with New Texture. It's a love collective. It's writers, poets, jazz musicians, pimps, and hookers. And we all working for the community in there. Everybody, he publishes Chris D's new book, his new book, which is fabulous.
Is that Bus Tales? Is that the one?
Stop requested. It is, but Tales of the Bus, Tales of Public Transportation in Los Angeles.
That sounds really grim.
You got to read it and see.
It's not grim, it's uplifting.
What is
It's
New
up.
Texture, aside from I heard the word pimps, but...
I was just kidding. There's no pimps involved.
Well, we're doing a little
Yeah.
pimping tonight.
We're pimping the books.
What's New Texture?
It's an arts collective. It's pretty much the way Josh described it, except for with less of the pimps and hoes involved. But
What is an arts collective?
Arts Collective, it's basically a group of artists, musicians, writers, graphic artists, visual artists, photographers, documentary filmmakers, who, for me, I see a common thread in everyone's work, which for me is not to get too lofty, but there's a humanity to all of it. Josh's stuff can be really heavy and can be really, some people think that it deals with outsiders, life's outsiders and troubled figures, but Josh always manages to see both the humorous side of it, the grim side, but most importantly the humanity of it. And that's what I think attracted me to Josh's work, and that's what attracted me to the work of most of the people on New Texture.
So how does New Texture function? What does New Texture do?
It functions barely.
Starting tonight.
Yeah.
This is the debut.
It's the public debut. We've had a website that's been up and active for 3 or 4 years now.
Newtexture.com?
Newtexture.com, and then the publishing side of it began about a year ago, where basically it was the idea of we weren't happy with the way that mainstream publishing tends to operate, and we tried to create something that was a little friendlier to the artist in every way, financially, creatively, in terms of the artist retaining the rights to their work, retaining control on how it's sold and marketed, and being able to keep things in print and available indefinitely. These are all things that I think mainstream publishing has lost its way on.
So you're a publishing company?
We've become a publishing company. Tonight's reading is going to be for our first 3 books. First 3 books we put out. Black Cracker is kind of a division. It's come under New Texture. It's from Wyatt Doyle. It's under my name, Wyatt Doyle Books, but we're all under the same umbrella.
Doesn't that sound like a grand old publishing firm in New York that goes from New England, that goes back to 100 years? Wyatt Doyle Books.
Yeah.
It sounds like Scribner's or something.
And so what are the first three books? You got Josh's Black Cracker.
Josh's Black Cracker, a collection by Chris D, who's also reading tonight, called A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die, collecting his lyrics, poetry, short stories, novel excerpts from, I think it starts in 1975 or so, up through work as recent as last year. And then my book, Stop Requested, which is a collaboration with Stanley Zappa, who provided the illustrations, which are phenomenal. So he makes my work look a lot better.
So who runs New Texture?
You're looking at him.
Yeah, pretty much. In theory, I run it, but really, each project has a different group of people helping to make it happen. So I can't take full credit. But I'm more I'm the lead man.
How did you guys meet, get connected, in the first place?
Online, I guess.
Yeah.
What,
Online.
you became Facebook friends, or
Before that.
who reached out to who?
I reached out to Josh for sure. I've been a fan of his work since I first started reading it in the 80s. And basically I saw that Josh had a new book that he had been writing. I knew it was his project that he had been working on for years and years, a real labor of love. And I was following its progress, and I kept waiting to approach him until we had some books out so he could see we actually do publish books.
Yeah.
And then after he published the first excerpt online, it kind of scared me that somebody was going to snap it out from under me before I even had a chance. So I wrote to him, and we had corresponded. I'd sent him a fan letter before, and we had some very brief correspondence. But we spoke by email, we spoke on the phone.
And his game was smooth.
Yeah.
He had a real smooth game, man. He convinced me.
As you can see, yeah.
In no time short, he convinced me to come on over with him.
Yeah.
Because the mainstream publishers were obviously they were. This is too hot to handle.
Yeah, a
Black
little
Cracker.
afraid
They're so fearful and scared for their jobs, and guys who wanted it had to, the CEO or something would say, "We can't publish. So what are you, crazy? We can't." It was just too hot to handle. And then there are white people, not black people, but white people getting offended over Black Cracker for the wrong reasons, who don't understand it.
Yeah.
But there's never been quite this this topic has never been quite delved into before this way, of reverse racism and Wyatt is fearless.
It's one of the best books anybody's going to read this year. I mean, I have absolute faith in the book. People can think whatever they want about what they've heard about it, or what they think the book is, or what they think Josh's opinion or perspective is, but it's an amazing book. No one who's read it has come back with anything less than just pure love.
Are you afraid